The night he realized he was in love, the rain was falling in two different countries at the same time. In a narrow hostel room in Delhi, an Indian boy sat on the edge of his bed staring at a glowing phone screen, his heart pounding as if it wanted to escape his chest. Thousands of miles away, in a quiet American suburb, an American girl was looking at the same kind of screen, feeling the same strange warmth and fear. Neither of them knew it yet, but that night would quietly change the direction of two lives forever, binding them across oceans, cultures, and expectations in a way neither had planned or prepared for. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that crosses borders and breaks walls, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He was an ordinary Indian boy from a middle-class family, raised in a small town where life followed predictable rhythms. Mornings smelled of chai and dust, evenings echoed with temple bells and distant traffic, and dreams were carefully measured to fit reality. He'd grown up believing that love was something arranged neatly by families, something practical and familiar. His parents had worked hard to give him an education, and with that education came responsibility, expectations, and invisible boundaries he never thought to question. He studied diligently, helped at home, and imagined a future that looked like everyone else's around him. Love, in his mind, was supposed to come later, quietly, without disruption. She, on the other hand, had grown up in a world that celebrated choices. Her American life was shaped by independence, open conversations, and the freedom to chase emotions without apology. She had learned early to speak her mind, to value honesty, and to believe that love should feel like safety, not obligation. Her days were filled with university classes, part-time, work, and dreams of traveling the world. India, to her, was just a name she had seen in documentaries and news articles. A distant place full of color and contrast, never imagining it would one day feel closer than her own neighborhood. Their worlds collided through something simple and modern, an online space meant for learning and shared interests. At first, their connection was light, almost accidental. Messages were exchanged casually, curiosity replacing boredom, time zones turning into a small challenge rather than a barrier. Slowly, familiarity grew. He began waiting for notifications with a feeling he could not explain. She started smiling at her phone more than she realized. In those early days it felt harmless, just two strangers sharing thoughts, ideas, and fragments of their lives. As weeks passed, the bond deepened quietly. He shared stories of festivals, family dinners, and the weight of expectations that came with being the eldest son. She shared her struggles with loneliness, the pressure to appear strong, and the emptiness that sometimes followed freedom. They became witnesses to each other's vulnerabilities. The distance made it easier to be honest, to speak about fears they had never voiced out loud. Somewhere between long messages and late-night reflections, affection transformed into something heavier, something that settled in the chest and refused to leave. The moment he understood his feelings, fear followed closely behind. Loving someone from another country felt impossible, almost irresponsible. He knew the realities of cultural differences, family pressure, and social judgment. In his world, love was not just between two people, it was between families, traditions, and generations. The thought of disappointing his parents, of being seen as someone who abandoned his roots, haunted him. Yet, the idea of losing her felt like suffocating in silence. She too struggled in her own way. Loving someone so far away meant uncertainty at every step. Friends questioned her choices, gently at first, then with concern. They warned her about heartbreak, about cultural clashes, about the risks of loving someone she had never met in person. Some assumed it was just a phase, an emotional escape. But deep inside, she knew it was real. She felt seen in a way she never had before, understood without having to explain herself repeatedly. Time tested them relentlessly. Misunderstandings arose from cultural differences, from words interpreted differently, from moments when one needed comfort and the other was asleep due to time zones. There were days when silence felt heavier than arguments. He battled guilt for choosing happiness over duty. She battled fear that she was asking him to sacrifice too much. Many times it felt easier to walk away than to keep holding on to something so fragile. The turning point came during one of the darkest phases of his life. A family crisis shook his sense of stability, reminding him how deeply rooted he was in responsibilities he could not escape. Overwhelmed, he withdrew emotionally, convinced that letting her go would spare her future pain. During that period, she felt the distance more than ever, not just geographically but emotionally. Yet instead of anger, she responded with patience. She stayed, offering silent support, reminding him through consistent presence that love did not always demand answers, only honesty. That patience changed him. For the first time, he saw love not as a distraction from duty, but as strength. Her belief in him gave him courage he did not know he possessed. He began to reflect deeply on what kind of life he wanted, what kind of man he hoped to become. Slowly, he started opening up to the idea that love and responsibility did not have to destroy each other. They could coexist, even if the path was difficult. Months later, reality demanded a decision. Their connection had grown too deep to ignore. He knew that keeping her hidden in his life would eventually hurt them both. With trembling resolve, he began sharing parts of his truth with his family, cautiously, respectfully. The reactions were not easy. Confusion, concern, and resistance surfaced. It felt like standing alone against a storm. But for the first time, he did not back down completely. He listened, explained, and asked for time. Meanwhile, she made her own sacrifices. She learned about his culture, his traditions, and the emotional weight of family ties. She questioned her own assumptions and confronted her fears. Love pushed her to grow, to understand a world different from her own. She stopped seeing the distance as an obstacle and started seeing it as a test of commitment. The day they finally met in person was not dramatic in the way movies portray. There were no perfect words or grand gestures. Instead, there was nervous silence, racing hearts, and the overwhelming realization that the person on the screen was real, breathing, imperfect, and beautiful. In that moment, everything they had endured felt worth it. Love was no longer just an idea, it was tangible. Their journey did not suddenly become easy. Acceptance came slowly, with setbacks and small victories. But something fundamental had changed. They had proven to themselves that love could survive fear, distance, and doubt. He learned that honoring his roots did not mean denying his heart. She learned that patience and understanding could build bridges even across oceans. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and share what part of this journey touched you the most. Your words matter more than you know. Near the end of their story, standing at a crossroads shaped by choice and courage, they understood that love was not about where they came from, but about where they were willing to go together. It was about growth, empathy, and the quiet strength to hold on when letting go seemed easier. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you of a love you believe, please like, share, and comment on this video. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us that love, when genuine, knows no borders.